with Wichita State Shocker basketball head coach Gregg Marshall is brought to you by Patterson Legal Group. They're the good guys. And by Jacobs Liquor Exchange. Here's the voice of the Shockers, Mike Kennedy.
Friday night at AJ's. We actually have two shows for you tonight. Sadly, our final men's basketball coaches show with head coach Gregg Marshall, and then coming up, our baseball show with Todd Butler from 7 to 8 as the Shocker baseball team gets home for 4 games this week. Coach, I guess maybe as good a place to start as any is if you've had enough time over the last couple of days to put a little perspective on this season and maybe just have an overall view of your hopes, accomplishments, and so forth.
Well, obviously, Mike, you know, we would all like to have played deeper into the NCAA tournament. That's a given. But the NCAA tournament's a different beast, and as you can see by your own brackets and teams that you thought were going to advance, there's pitfalls everywhere you turn. Unfortunately, we didn't play well, and when we don't play well against a team of the caliber of Marshall University with John Elmore and C.J. Burks and the way they play, you can take a fall, and we did that. We turned the ball over just enough. We did not have enough good performances, and we didn't advance in the tournament. So for the first time in 6 years, we did not advance at least one round in the tournament. We were one of 5 teams going into it that had done it 5 straight years. So in retrospect, disappointing, but the positives are you spend the entire season in the top 25. I don't know when we've done that before. I think maybe in 14, you could speak to that better than I when we went undefeated, but I don't know if we were in there early in the season. So spend the entire season in the top 25, come within an eyelash of winning the regular season championship against Cincinnati there at Koch Arena, and I think that may have been the death knell for our team. I'm not sure we ever recovered from that, and maybe that's my fault. I didn't do anything to get their spirits up or have a team building function at that point. That's not my forte, but in the end, we didn't play well after that, and that was a crushing defeat. But we had 6 seniors that won a lot of championships, won a lot of games. They represented us very well off the court as well as on during the course of their careers, and they're all going to go out as winners and champions and with degrees. So hopefully all of them can figure out what the next move is going to be basketball-wise, and get a chance to play professional basketball and put some money away before the real world comes to fruition for them. So I think in retrospect, it just depends on your outlook and your perspective, but I think it was a good year for Shocker basketball.
25 wins. You're now one of just 4 programs in the country to win 25 or more for each of the last 9 years. As you mentioned, in the top 25 all year. After the loss in the NCAA, still right around 20 in the RPI and the Ken Pomeroy. You move into a brand new league, obviously a more difficult league than the one you've been in. Tie for second. You have a chance to play for the regular season title on the final day of the regular season. Go to your 7th straight NCAA tournament and get a 4 seed. To anybody, that's a successful year, any program in the country, and yet I guess we all get spoiled by the fact that you've had that success in the tournament at the end of the year, and so it feels a little different. But in perspective, when you add it all up, it has to be a pretty successful year.
Yeah, it is, but the expectations, I think that's the biggest thing. This team, this group of guys, because they had beaten Dayton last year and took Kentucky to the wire, and they've got everybody back, and I think that's the biggest thing that you've got to get over when you start to qualify this season, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. But just starting 11 years ago, if you'd have asked me, you're in the top 25 all year, you get to the NCAA tournament, you're a 4 seed, and you come within an eyelash of winning not the Missouri Valley Conference, but a league that's a step above that at least. Would you take that? And I probably would have said yes.
And you mentioned everybody's brackets and so forth. This has been a highly unusual year. There are always some upsets, but the first 16-1 upset in the history of the tournament. You were a 4 losing to a 13, but Arizona was a 4, a hot team that lost to a 13 right off the bat. You have Xavier, another one of the 1 seeds, done after the round of 32 yesterday. Michigan State's gone. North Carolina, 2, gets drummed in what was essentially a home game in Charlotte against Texas A&M. It's just been that kind of year.
Yeah, a lot of those teams that you mentioned, they didn't lose. They got hammered. Virginia loses by 20 to a 16 seed. North Carolina lost to a huge margin to Texas A&M. Arizona was drubbed by Buffalo. So, we had our chances. Obviously, we didn't play well, but we still had our chances. I still think that ball was off the Marshall, which would have given us a chance there at the end. But in the end, it just wasn't in the cards.
And also, you look at things you mentioned in your post-game news conference, the shot that John Elmore made right at the end of the shot clock when you're still right there in the lead in the game. Or you look at the last shot that Michigan made to beat Houston. Those are shots that if you give the same guy the same shot, same defense on him, the rushed end of the clock shot another 25 times, they might not ever make those again. It's just one of those things that happen.
Yeah, it's a crazy game, and it's played by kids, and some of them, sometimes they have their best days, and sometimes they have their worst days. And unfortunately, we had too many guys that didn't play well, and I've got to coach better. But in the end, losing to Marshall, disappointing. But I'm telling you, I would be beside myself if I were Cincinnati's coach today, after having a 22-point lead with 11 minutes and change and having it just vanish. Or Xavier's coach, having a 9 to 11 point lead with 5 minutes to go as a 1 seed in the second round. So there's a lot of, there's only one team that walks out of this thing with their smiling from ear to ear at the end. So there's a lot of teams that find losses in different ways, and we found ours early this year. Not something we're happy with. But the only positive is it gave me a chance to start getting recruiting going. So there's always spring recruiting to do.
All right, we will continue with Coach Marshall as we end the season on this show. We're from AJ's at the Alley, and we'll be right back.
In any contest, it takes more than just knowing the rules to win big. Think, when you add talent, you can get more. Make the winning shot. If you get injured, call the Patterson Legal Group.
All rise.
Get the right players for the right game. Call the good guys and get the power of more.
The good guys are the way to go. Call 687-2400.
Hello, Shocker Nation. This is Cindy Carnahan with the Carnahan Group at J.P. Wygand & Sons. For the past 40 years, the Carnahan Group has been helping the great people of Wichita buy and sell homes, helping with first home purchases, patio homes, and everything in between. Whether you are trading up or paring down, we want you to call on us. Let us put our vast experience, our robust marketing, and our proven systems to work for you. Whether big or small, our service is the same. I promise.
I love Carlos O'Kelly's queso.
Man, that's what I'm gonna miss most about Wichita.
Oh, why the ref's taking our food?
Whoa, we didn't double dip.
Looks like we won't be going to the monitor for this one. Carlos O'Kelly's queso is for everyone.
So how many quesos? 36, got it.
You don't have to be a Shocker legend to love Carlos O'Kelly's queso.
Founded in 1919, Lewis Street Glass is a fourth-generation family business that got its start installing and replacing automotive glass. In these times of cut-rate, no-warranty competition from industry giants, we remain true to our long-standing policy of fair pricing and total customer satisfaction. With service professionals who specialize in automotive work, we offer all types of auto glass services, including door mechanical repairs as well as glass restoration work on classic cars. Lewis Street Glass, where we're proud to be Kansas's oldest glass shop.
It has the power to soften the blow. Break the ice. And melt your heart. A healthy smile is a powerful thing. It deserves Delta Dental, the nation's leading dental benefits provider. Learn more about our individual and family plans at deltadentalks.com.
Welcome back to the Gregg Marshall Show. Wichita State finishing its 11th season under Coach Marshall at 25-8, finishing up in the NCAA Tournament for the 7th consecutive year. There was just one specific thing from the Marshall game I did want to bring up. For almost 3 full years, we all felt like sooner or later, Connor Frankamp's got to get 20 points in a game. He had come very close several times, and finally what proved to be his final collegiate game, a 27-point performance. He was probably never better in his time.
Yeah, he was fantastic. We got him going. Unfortunately, he didn't have a lot of help in making shots from the backcourt. He was dynamite. The one shot I didn't like was we're up 7, and he came down on the fast break and did a little heat check at about 27 feet right in front of me with a hard contest. That's what it was. Deep, it was early, but the hard contest is what bothered me. Had he made that, you know, you're up 10, the momentum's definitely in our favor at that time early in the second half, but he was feeling it, and it was good to see him play well. He's had a fine career. A guy that can really make shots. I mean, how many points has that guy scored between his high school, his KU year and a half, and then what he did for us for 2.5 years?
I wanted to look at some of the things that were definitely positives about this year's team. And every year that you have been at Wichita State, your team has been in the top 50 in the nation in rebound margin. This year, for the second year in a row, you are second. There are only 16 teams left, so it's probably not going to change much. Almost 10 a game, 9.9 per game, and you out-rebounded Marshall by 14, which is the 4th or 5th best rebound margin in a single NCAA game in school history.
Yeah, who was ahead of us?
You know, I don't even, let me look. I can figure that out. Houston Baptist.
Houston Baptist is the best rebounding team in the country?
No, I'm sorry. Michigan State. Okay. Michigan State at 10.7.
And we're 9.9. Yeah. Well, it gives us somebody to shoot for next year other than Houston Baptist. Just rebounding is a big part of the game, and obviously we didn't shoot the ball great. We needed even more offensive rebounds. We had 44. You said what was that about the
plus 14 was the margin.
Yeah, is that good?
That's really good. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we needed a couple more. I just wish we could have knocked down some of those shots. We had some guys that just didn't shoot the ball well, and we turned the ball over. There were too many uncharacteristic turnovers. Well, I hope they're uncharacteristic because, I'm trying to call timeout one time, and I guess these players, I don't like to call timeouts, obviously, so we're not in the practice of them having to call timeout. But I'm telling Connor right in front of me, call a timeout. And he looks at me, and I said, call a timeout, because I can't. And before he can turn then to find the referee, Landry had been stripped on the far side. And honestly, that was happening. I think I could have saved at least one had I practiced timeouts a little more.
Yeah, and that was one of the strange aspects, not only of that game, but of this team this year. Your average turnovers per game were just over 11.5. That's not a bad number. Top 50-something in the country. It's 5th best since you've been here. But it just seemed like there were those games, some of those close games, where it was the timing, the inopportune time that they occurred, and certainly Marshall was one of them. Cincinnati here, the final game of the regular season.
Yeah. We've got to take care of the basketball better, and we've got to have more handlers on the court, decision makers that can get the ball inside when the big guy's open, that can make a decision on whether. And we were up 7, and we turned the ball over 3 of 4 possessions. And I know one of them we were trying to force the ball into Shaq Morris and threw it into a double team, and the third one was when Landry got stripped on the far side. So we'll just have to keep doing better.
You had an all-time record for your tenure here in assists per game at 18.5. That ranks 3rd in the nation. This team maybe executed the offense and worked together as a team offensively as well as any you've had.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, there's a lot of talented people out there, so obviously sharing the basketball and moving the basketball, I think that's the way the game should be played. But we're going more and more now to this dribbling around and dribbling and Marshall did a lot of that, and maybe that's something that I'm going to have to look at, because they spread the court, and then literally the only time you see people dribbling in circles back when I was growing up and watching basketball was when you saw the Globetrotters. And Marcus Haynes would do the dribbling, and then he would get down on the ground and spin around and dribble around. But that's what they did. They would put people in the corners and people on the wings and maybe set a ball screen, maybe not. But that dude would just dribble and dribble and dribble, and eventually you would break down.
One of the things that was interesting, because we talked about what a unique offense to some degree that Marshall runs, and certainly it echoes what some teams are doing in the NBA, but Dan D'Antoni in his pre-tournament news conference mentioned that that's the way he and his brother grew up. Where they grew up in West Virginia, Eastern Kentucky, that was how people played back then. And then it kind of went a whole different direction to more structured offense, and it was just something that Mike brought back when he got to the pros, and that's just been a natural thing for them over the years.
Yeah, it really has. And you know, it's crazy the degrees of separation from the 2 years that I spent as an assistant coach at Marshall University prior to becoming the head coach at Winthrop. My boss was a guy named Gregg White, and Gregg White went to Marshall, was one of the great players there, but he wasn't as good as the D'Antoni brothers, who also were from Mullins, West Virginia. And if you Wikipedia Mullins, West Virginia, I bet it's not a town of more than 5,000 people. It could be 10, it might be 3, but there's one car dealership in the town. There's like 5 stoplights. I've been there. And for that city, that little town, to produce Mike D'Antoni, who was a great player at Marshall, went to Italy. He has some Italian background, obviously, and was the Michael Jordan of Italy in the 70s and the 80s. And then to come back in the later part of his career and coach in the NBA for 5 or 6 different programs. His brother Danny, also a Marshall great, who coached in high school in South Carolina and then became a coach at 66 at Marshall University, and then Gregg White. So that's a lot of basketball in that little tiny hamlet of a town. And obviously they did something right. I mean, because they could really play and they could really coach.
Unfortunately, you didn't get an opportunity to enjoy it as much as you could have, but I don't know if you could ever create a situation in the NCAA tournament where more factors came together. You were at Marshall at one time. Donnie Jones was at Marshall at one time. I know you saw media members and people from the school that you hadn't seen for a long time. Then, as we talked about, 2 of your former assistants both had their teams at the same site. So, and you probably were asked as many questions about Chris Jans and or Earl Grant in your news conference, and I know Chris mentioned to us he got a lot of questions about you in his news conference.
Right, and Donnie was actually there twice as an assistant coach, and then he came back as the head coach at Marshall. A kid that I recruited to Marshall while I was there is now on their staff. Corny Jackson is a fantastic young coach, and not only do they coach well, but they've restocked that program with talent. They don't lose anybody. They've got juniors and freshmen in their starting lineup, so everything stays the same. They'll have that group better and more experienced next year. But yeah, there's a lot of and the thing I'll tell you about Marshall University, I spent 2 years there, was glad to get the Winthrop job and have my own opportunity to be a head coach in 1998. But we still have friends there. There are great people in that community, and they just not as many. It's not as big. It's not as big a financial center to the state as Wichita is to Kansas, but Huntington, West Virginia is passionate about their team and their coaches, and they're just very, very similar to what you have in Wichita in terms of support and the love that they have for that program.
You are listening to Shocker head basketball coach Gregg Marshall. As we wrap up the 2018 season, we'll continue from AJ's in just a moment.
So you want to join the popular RV movement? Why not try it before you buy it at Ramsey's RV Rental in Augusta, Kansas? Ramsey's RV Rental has top-of-the-line towable travel trailers that sleep up to 8 for your next getaway, road trip, hunting trip, or tailgate. Small to large, toy haulers too. Many of Ramsey's RV units come equipped with state-of-the-art flat screens, kitchens, bathrooms, and more. Book online now at Ramsey'sRVRental.com, where you could say Ramsey's RV Rental has changed camping into glamping. Ramsey's RV Rental, 316-775-3637.
People come from all over the world to shop at Jacob Liquor Exchange.
Ooh la la, look at the selection. One for every occasion. Oui, oui, c'est magnifique.
You've got to be kidding. We don't have this much scotch in all of Scotland.
You have more vodka than the Kremlin. When I want beer, this is where I get her done.
Jacob Liquor Exchange has the largest selection of beer, wine, and spirits in Wichita. We're right on the way and right on the price. Jacob Liquor Exchange.
Your eyes are often the first to capture important memories. Dress them for the occasion with a new pair of glasses from Howard's Optical. For nearly half a century, Howard's has given you the look you want and deserve. Ask about the Ultimate Lens Package at any of their 4 locations in Wichita: Bradley Fair, Riverside, 13th and Mays Road, and their main store at 5405 East Central. Howard's Optical, a heritage of quality, service, and integrity. Visit howardsoptical.com, proud supporter of Wichita State basketball. Go Shocks!
I'm Coach Gregg Marshall. Getting an award means you've achieved something exceptional. So when I tell you that Welch's Heating and Air offers award-winning service with a 96% satisfaction rating, what that means is Welch's will do an exceptional job in taking care of your family's comfort needs. I should know, as I rely on Welch's to take care of my family's comfort needs. Call Welch's Heating and Air, your independent American Standard heating and air conditioning customer care dealer at 733-1600.
At Bell Mirror & Glass, we know our work reflects our family name, but we also know that what we do reflects on you.
For over 50 years now, Bell Mirror & Glass has created and installed nothing but the finest custom-made glass, mirrors, shower enclosures, and more for your family or business. Visit the gorgeous Bell Mirror & Glass showroom today.
And let what we do reflect on you.
Bell Mirror & Glass. For over 50 years, a reflection of perfection.
Welcome back to the Gregg Marshall Show. Unfortunately, our last show of the season, but it always has to happen sometime sooner or later. Glad to have you with us. And coming up at the top of the hour, we'll talk Shocker baseball as well with Todd Butler tonight. Coach, we talked about these guys a little bit heading into the end of their regular season and the ceremonies here, but 6 seniors on this year's team and certainly a special group of guys. We talked about Shaquille Morris, but a very interesting transition for him over his career, and he ended up high up in some significant categories in his career at Wichita State.
Yeah, he was here for a long time, and you know, he played some of the best basketball right there at the end. Unfortunately, didn't play great in our tournament last week, but I mean, the guy improved dramatically on and off the court. In a position to get his degree. All he has to do is finish the classes he's in right now and should be a pro at some level. You know, I don't know if he's going to get an NBA look, but he, with his body and his skill set, can make quite a bit of money overseas. And who knows, as long as his body holds up, he can do that for quite a while.
Second all-time in block shots at Wichita State, 4th in career field goal percentage, and he ends up with 1,172 points, 28th all-time, averaged over 14 points a game this year. Had never been a double-figure scorer previously, so certainly saved the best for last, and certainly was his most consistent over this senior year.
Yeah, he stayed out of foul trouble for the most part. I think he was in foul trouble one time. Well, he was in foul trouble against Marshall. He missed the last 9.5 minutes, but he had stayed out of foul trouble. He had gotten to the point where he wasn't doing the silly, I'm tired, let me get out of the game, so just hack somebody. He stopped doing that, and that's good, but he got a charge, and then I don't know what his other foul was, but I thought he was fouled on like the 2nd or 3rd possession of the game. He got an offensive rebound, and from my vantage point, I could see the guy grab his shirt and like untuck his shirt as he went up to finish the shot, and he of course missed it, but they didn't they didn't call it.
I mentioned Connor Frankamp. If you are not aware, the one free throw he got a chance to shoot against Marshall gave him a tie for the 2nd longest consecutive free throw streak in school history at 36 in a row. 35 for 35 this year. Nobody who's ever shot as many as 15 or 20 in a season has ever made all of them. He also ended up in not quite 3 full seasons, 6th in career three-point field goals made with 164. But the free throw thing was pretty amazing. It's just it's a shame that he didn't get a chance to go to the line a little more.
Right, yeah, he needed to drive in there and get fouled. I mean, he's a little guy. I mean, he really is. When you look at him on videotape and some of the scrums that they're involved in. When he usually takes the worst end of that. He's just not a big guy, but he certainly has unbelievable hand-eye coordination. He can shoot the basketball. He's a scratch golfer. You don't want to play him in ping pong. All those little things he's really good at. And he just had a wonderful career, and so glad that he was able to do it here in front of his hometown fans and family.
One other thing, he had 194 assists in his career, so that's a pretty significant number in 3 seasons, and his assist-to-turnover ratio was 4.7 to 1. That's over 1 full assist to 1, better than Fred Van Vliet's, who was second, or is now second all-time at Wichita State. So not a huge assist total, but certainly enough to make that a very significant
Are you gonna have his number of assists qualify for that type of record, Mike?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, you're the determining factor there.
Over 2 a game, so that should be okay. Richard Kelly had a really great senior year in terms of really getting the most out of what I thought his last game was kind of a typical Richard Kelly game. He only scored 4 points, only took a couple of shots, but had 12 rebounds and 5 assists, and that's kind of who he was this year.
Yeah, Marshall, though, did a wonderful job guarding him/us because they didn't guard him. They basically dropped off and double-teamed the low post and dared him to shoot at 15 feet, and it's just his jump shot is just okay, but his heart is as big as this room, and the way he pursues the ball is top-notch. I mean, he's like a Evan Wessel in terms of pursuing the ball, and when he gets a hand on it, you know he's going to come up with it. He was tremendous in that regard. He cut his body up. He finally listened to what he needed to do to be a big-time contributor, and that's do the dirty work. Be the JYD, be the junkyard dog, and don't worry about playing a pretty game. And it was great to see him embrace that role, and no one has embraced that role as much as him as a senior in my tenure, and he was a very, very important piece for us this year.
Certainly there are elements to this program that have been important throughout the time that you've been here, and we're talking about toughness and those kinds of things, and you've had some great leaders set examples in those areas. Was he the closest you had to that type of leader this year, you think?
Yeah, he is a very good leader. He became a very good leader. Just wanted to win, and he was vocal enough in front of me, and I don't know what he did in the locker room when I'm not back there, and that's their sanctuary. But there were times when he would speak up and try to be a leader, and sometimes that means saying things that are unpopular or not at the status quo, if you will. And I think that's going to carry him, this experience and what he sacrificed to become what he became, is going to carry him throughout the rest of his life.
Zach Brown, a 4-year player for you who embraced the role of trying to be a defensive stopper. He did have a drop-off in his offensive game this year, and that was unfortunate, but certainly gave you everything he had.
Yeah, he plays hard. I mean, obviously that whole family's given Wichita State athletic department quite a jolt of talent and trying to do things right. And he didn't shoot the ball great this year, but for whatever reason, the knee injury or whatever it was caused him to lose about a half a step on the defensive end. And, you know, at one time he was lugging around that big brace on his knee during the middle of the year, and that was obviously a deterrent for him because he needed to be moving. At 6'6", he could really blanket some guys last year, not quite as effectively this year.
Ronald Nerger certainly became part of the community, really made some contributions during his career. He also seemed to lose a little confidence offensively toward the end of the season.
Yeah, he didn't make shots. You know, he was really good at that 12 to 15-foot mid-range game, and then I thought he was an excellent three-point shooter, but didn't make him towards the end of the year. But he wasn't playing as much because Shaq was playing, and then, you know, you've got he and Daryl. So those two guys were getting close to 40 minutes, and that just left a little bit of time for Rano. And, you know, it's unfortunate we couldn't redshirt him that year. We wanted to redshirt him when Anton Grady went down with the spinal concussion, and we didn't know if he would even come back. So we burned the redshirt year about 5 games in, and otherwise Rano would be back with us next year.
And Darrell Willis is kind of unique to many of the players you've had in your tenure here. Certainly a guy that could give you some instant offense and had some tremendously productive games and yet could be a dilemma at times. He had a 13.8 rebound game against Marshall, but had a key steal in which he decided to dribble down the floor and got stripped. And just things like that would pop up with Darrell once in a while.
Darrell did not lack for confidence. And you know, on that particular play, he's been told not to dribble the basketball, you know, in the post and whatnot. If you're making a move, that's fine. But when you rebound it or in the middle of the court, don't dribble the basketball. It doesn't end well. But his confidence, he thought he was going to make a play there. And, you know, he did the same thing. I think it was in the Cincinnati game at home. And he was dribbling it and told someone, well, you need to tell me that there's a player coming. And I went, are you kidding me? You know, you can't hear yourself think in Coke Arena right now, and we've got to do a verbal warning for you. Okay, and that's not going to happen. Well, in the Marshall game, I'm 8 feet from him as he's dribbling up the court and yelling, man on. I'm using one of those soccer terms that, you know, little kids yell out at 8-year-old soccer games. I'm yelling, man on. And the guy just keeps coming, and he keeps dribbling, and boom, it's gone. So no matter what the verbal warning or the signals for distress, he was going to continue to dribble that ball.
Fair to say, though, that when you think back in the years to come on Darrell Willis and that irrepressible personality, your first reaction is probably going to be to smile as soon as his name is mentioned.
I'm not sure. I'm just kidding. No, I will. If about his dribbling, it won't be. No, other than that, yes, I will.
We will continue with Coach Marshall on our final basketball coaches show of the season right after this.
A literal fork in the road. If I go this way, I could pancake some pancakes, but if I go that way, I could omelette some omelettes. Do I pancake? Or do I omelette?
Hey! Let's go to IHOP. They have all kind of omelets that come with pancakes.
Where is this IHOP?
It's right there. Don't leave that horse.
IHOP's omelets come with pancakes.
When the stakes are high, make sure you're with the winning team. You don't get to be the best by sitting around. Learn more at serenityhomehealth.com.
Ever wonder what's in a beer? If it's a Bud Light, it's 4 essential ingredients: barley, rice, water, and hops. Here's to the beer you can always count on, brewed to be America's favorite light lager.
Winning takes hard work, commitment, and accountability. I'm Wichita State coach Gregg Marshall, and I believe in challenging our team, like switching leagues. And so does the hometown team at All Angles Collision Repair. They're in a league of their own, the very best. All Angles has the right people, processes, and prompt service, providing state-of-the-art collision repair with 100% customer satisfaction. All Angles, the winning team in auto body repair.
All Angles.
Hi, I'm Gregg Marshall, coach of the Wichita State Shockers men's basketball team, and I'm here to talk to you about Dillon's. Now, I know a thing or two about committing yourself to excellence. That's why I love Dillon's. Because the Dillon's team is committed to high-quality food, low prices, and the kind of friendly service that makes you feel right at home. So next time you're having a party or a tailgate to cheer on the team, stop by Dillon's for your favorite food and drinks. Go Shockers! Great food, low prices at Dillon's.
Welcome back to the Gregg Marshall Show. Wichita State ending its season in the NCAA Tournament over the weekend, and we wrap things up on tonight's Coaches Show. And Coach, as you start making the transition to next year, I know that one thing you always try to do shortly after the season is get together with all of your players, have individual meetings, go over things, find out if anybody's thinking about transferring or whatever. Is that process starting this week?
It'll start this week. I've got recruiting going on right now. I was in Hutch this morning at 10 o'clock, and I watched 3 games, and then headed back this way, and we'll do it at some point this week, hopefully, if not early next week. We've got time. I mean, there's no urgency with how quickly we were out of the NCAA tournament. So I just think, all the guys need to know, what I need to know what they're thinking. They need to know what we're thinking as a staff, and hopefully there's a meeting that, we can all agree on and move forward. But it happens every year at every school. I mean, there's too many guys on a team. You can only play 5. There's 13 scholarships plus a few walk-ons, and you've got 10 or 12 guys over there sitting thinking, I'm the best thing since sliced bread. I don't know why you're not playing me more. How can you not realize I'm this good? Because I've got people at home telling me every day how good I am, and you've got to figure that out. And it's hard. If you put 6 on the court, you get a technical foul most of the time, and you just got to work it out.
6 seniors, everybody knows that. You signed 6 already for next year, but would it be fair to say that there's at least a somewhat likelihood that you may not be through recruiting for next fall?
Well, we're definitely not through recruiting. That's why I was up there today, and I'm heading somewhere else next week. And as long as it's allowable, I will be continuing to grind. My whole staff is out right now, so we're continuing to recruit, and there's all kind of things going on, and we'll have to deal with. And at this point, you just have to make sure that you know what numbers you're working with, and the numbers always work out. We've never had more guys on scholarship than 13, and you like to fill all your scholarships, even though leaving one open is not the worst thing in the world either, because you can get a mid-year transfer.
Obviously, the one that everybody's aware of is a possibility. There's been a lot of talk about Landry Shamet possibly going to the NBA ahead of time, and the draft isn't until later in June, 3rd week of June. So is there, I don't know how much experience you've had with, do you get a sense of what the likelihood is? Do you have any chance of knowing before that point what the possibilities are of somebody going early?
I talked to them as we were getting on the bus, and I said, let's get together soon. His mom and his AAU coach, Darren Mason, who's a wonderful guy, and I said, let's just talk whenever you guys are ready. And what I will tell them is, let's submit the paperwork to the NBA advisory committee. They come back with as many programs as they can get in the NBA, giving them an idea of where they see a possibility of him going in the draft, whether first round, middle of first round, late first round, early second round, middle of second round, not drafted at all, that type thing. You get their opinion, and then at this point, I think he needs to go through the process of looking at it. He didn't do that last year. We had a number of guys that did, but he did not. So you get to do that one time without declaring and hiring an agent, and let's just see. And if he's a first-round draft pick, and he's guaranteed that he's going to be a first-round draft pick, then maybe he has to go. I really believe that type of money guaranteed over a couple of years can be life-changing for a guy like that. But if he's not guaranteed, then we need to reevaluate and we need to look at it. I mean, can you get bigger? Obviously he can. Can you get quicker? Can you become a more consistent, really, really good player? Those are things that he'll have to ponder. And I don't know, what his mindset is. That's one of the meetings that we have to have. I mean, are you enjoying this? Is this something you really love? Can you not wait to get into an NBA lifestyle? Are you willing to risk riding buses and playing in places like Sioux Falls and wherever these G League teams are, Rio Grande, and riding a bus? Are you willing to sacrifice, and maybe that's where you end up? I don't know. It's way above my pay grade. Those NBA guys, I have no idea what they're looking for or doing. But that's why we have to ask the questions, and then he needs to make a very wise and prudent decision.
You mentioned the guys who explored things last year. Marcus McDuffie was one of those, but then he had the injury, got a late start, certainly did not have the year that he had before. I'm hearing good things, that he is looking at how much he needs to work in the offseason to get stronger and do some of those things. And right now it does not appear that certainly he would be a hot NBA prospect.
I hope that he can become a hot NBA prospect. I think there's a possibility. Undoubtedly, he looked good in those workouts last year. But, you know, when they're not going to draft you, they're not going to say nasty things as you walk out the door. They're going to pat you on your back, and they're going to say nice things and encourage you. And that's what they did with Marcus. And, you know, he had a much better sophomore year than junior year. But he didn't do anything in practice in the fall. He didn't do one drill. And Marcus, from what I've gathered now, Marcus needs those reps. He needs to do the everyday grind so that it's mentally more second nature for him. And there were things that he just simply forgot or didn't remember from one year to the next, and then boom, we throw him in there in December against American Athletic Conference teams, and that's very difficult. So he's got another year. It looks like now to improve his body, improve his skill level, and he would be a go-to guy for us next year.
While we're talking about professional opportunities, what's kind of the process with guys like your senior Shaq, for instance, and so forth, as far as what you try to do to help them or advise them as far as a possible professional career?
Well, seniors, there is no. They're done, so they don't have to worry about whether are you going to declare for the draft. Everybody's declaring for the draft. In fact, Mike, you and I could declare for the draft. We could both say we're able to be drafted this year. We're done with our college eligibility. Anybody that wants to take a chance on a 55-year-old point guard, maybe shooting guard, I can play both, though not very well. I don't know what you're going to advertise.
I can shoot it, but,
you know, because that's what you do.
But I could never get open.
So we could put our names in and see how it goes. You know, the average salary is probably $12 million now per year in the NBA. So it's a good gamble. We don't have anything to lose, but I'm not sure we'll be drafted. Now those guys, maybe Shaq can be drafted. I don't think any of the other seniors will be drafted in the NBA. They're going to have to now go and carve out their little piece of professional basketball. It could be in the NBA, it could be the G League, it could be what Fred and Ron did, it could be overseas like Ramon Clemente, who was doing great, and guys like Joe Ragland and Teray Murray that are making money and banking money for a number of years, and most of the time it's tax-free. And then see how that goes. And you don't have to stay. I mean, you can play overseas and all of a sudden be in the NBA. You can be in the NBA and have to go overseas. Teray's been both, and it's worked out pretty well for him. So that's just the way it works. And at this point, we need to help them figure out agents. I mean, hopefully none of them have had any contact with agents. They've been told not to have any contact with agents. They've been preached to about don't take anything from agents or boosters or anything like that that's tangible. So now is the time for them. We need to sit down and vet these agents that are trying to get paid off of their talents. They get a percentage of whatever they make by helping them with their contract.
And certainly would it be fair to say that one of the biggest keys to next year with so many guys to replace beyond what people coming in brand new can contribute is improvement from guys in the program. Asbjorn Meatgard, C.J. Kaiser, Rod Brown, who redshirted this year. Is that going to be a real key to next year's team?
Absolutely. Those guys know the system. They know the program. You know, C.J. Kaiser can go from a guy that couldn't get in front of Zach Brown and Marcus McDuffie and Connor Frankamp to now, okay, here you are. Here's your opportunity. You know, those guys sit over there, and you know as a coach because you played. And I was a starter for some parts of my career as a young kid in college, and I was a bench warmer for some part of my career. And I just remember sitting over there going, you know, what is this guy doing? Why is he not putting me in the game? He obviously doesn't want to win. And the Stevie Nicks line, players only love you when they're playing. That's so true. And now he's going to be thrust from that to, okay, go play 34 minutes and let's see what we can do. I hope you're really good. And that's what's going to happen. He's going to get that opportunity next year. He would have had that opportunity this year had he not had the issue with the school. And that set him back. He was playing really well in the fall. Samaje Haynes-Jones, another guy, I mean, he's got that physical situation where it's hard for him to, if I tell him to go in the game, all of a sudden he has a reaction that's not positive, and that's difficult to deal with. And that's not just for me. Imagine it for him. So that's something that we'll have to address and talk about. And Roderick Brown's going to have to go from, red shirt where we're pushing you to develop your skills, but nobody's really on you because nothing matters when you're shooting it in practice. Now everything's going to be scrutinized. That's a big deal for him. Meat guard, he's going to have to just toughen up. That's the biggest thing for him because he's so physically gifted. He can catch it. He can move. He's so huge and an immense guy. But he's the nicest Viking Nordic person I've ever met in my life. I haven't met a whole lot, but I mean, I understand that they're really happy country. They're all happy-go-lucky, and I can understand because he is.
And it's one of the things that maybe excites you a little bit, the potential of some of the guys we talked about athletically to be the kind of guys that could be defensive stoppers and get back to playing some defense that maybe you missed out on a little bit at times.
Yeah, we got to get we're gonna grind a little bit. I was not happy with our defense, and it's obvious the numbers don't lie. We've got to do a better job of getting some athletic guys out front that can keep the ball in front and be a little more gritty, tough, if you will. We were skilled, and we could shoot the ball, and we could pass the ball, but we got away from, and it wasn't intentional. It's just the guys that we ended up with. It wasn't intentional. They just were not as good out front at point of attack defense.
All right, we will come back to wrap things up on our final Gregg Marshall Show of the year from AJ Sports Grill at the Alley.
Now Contour from Cox gets you right to the strange stuff.
Something's coming. Something hungry for blood.
Noble stuff.
The crown must always win.
Show me something dramatic.
And orange stuff. Along with the best stuff on cable, because Netflix is now on Contour.
How awesome is this place?
Just say it.
Black Mirror.
And get right to the fierce, funny, bold, and bingey stuff. Watch it all on Contour. Just say Netflix to get started.
With Cox My Account, you can stay on top of things without having to call. Check statements and pay your bill instantly, so nothing gets by you. Keep an eye on the strength of your Wi-Fi, and fix issues right under your nose by resetting your modem or set-top box. Even check TV listings. Sign into My Account at Cox.com today, so you never miss a thing.
With Cox high-speed internet, you get access to super-fast in-home Wi-Fi to power all your devices and do the things you love online. And now, when you're traveling, you have free access to the nation's largest Wi-Fi network with over 500,000 hotspots, so you can stay connected in places such as New York City, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., Phoenix, and many more. Learn how with the Cox Discover More video series at cox.com/learn.
In the blink of an eye, cities fall, heroes rise. A heartbeat skips as a man slips gravity's grip, and heartbreak leaps from the brink in a blink. Just think of all the games, teams, hopes, and dreams that live and die because greatness lies in the blink of an eye. This is the sports app on Contour from Cox. Cable TV reimagined to get you right to the good stuff.
Now Contour from Cox gets you right to the strange stuff.
Something's coming. Something hungry for blood.
Noble stuff.
The crown must always win.
Show me something dramatic.
And orange stuff. Along with the best stuff on cable, because Netflix is now on Contour.
How awesome is this place?
Just say it.
Black Mirror.
and get right to the fierce, funny, bold, and bingy stuff. Watch it all on Contour. Just say Netflix to get started.
Welcome back to our final Gregg Marshall Show of this basketball season. And don't forget, coming up in just a few minutes at the top of the hour, we'll turn the subject to Shocker baseball with Todd Butler as the Shockers get ready to play 4 at home this week. Coach, you get into a new league this year, kind of get familiar with the programs, the venues, and so forth, but there will be a couple of changes. Memphis and UConn both making coaching changes. The story seems to be today that Penny Hardaway will accept the Memphis job, and Dan Hurley seems to be the leading target for UConn, the coach at Rhode Island. Any thoughts on those changes?
Well, I mean, Tubby Smith is a wonderful gentleman. He's not a mentor, but he's a guy that I've known as a kid in the business. I knew him when I was a college student. I hate the way that whole thing went down. That's nothing against Penny Hardaway. I'm not sure he had anything to do with that. That has no reflection on Penny Hardaway being the coach. Penny was awesome when we recruited Alex Lomax, but the way Tubby Smith was shown the door after 2 years at Memphis makes it very difficult to stomach when you're on this side as a coach and you go, man, you come with good faith and you sign this contract. I hope that they have to pay him every single penny that they owe him. No pun intended. On the deal with Kevin Ollie, another very good man, a guy that won a national championship in 2014. Whatever reason, program goes south, and they're a very proud program, having won 4 national championships since 2019. So in 2099, so 19 years, 4 national championships. Only team that's won more is Duke. And it was not pretty. It was tough. I mean, I watched it. I felt bad for him. It was like, gosh, what's going on? And he was let go. And again, from my perspective, pay him the money. He came, he signed, it's a two-party deal. You sign this contract, and that's why agents are involved, because they have to. As a layman, as a coach, I'm in athletics, Mike, okay? So I can't read this contract and figure all the legalese out. You have to have these professionals that's why these guys get this money, because they can protect the interest of the university and the interest of the coach. And in this particular case, Kevin Ollie, pay him the money. He deserves the money. You guys decided you wanted to make a change, and they probably needed to make a change the way that was going. But after 2 years in Memphis, I just didn't understand that. So I hope they get good coaches. I hope they, elevate the league and what we're capable of, because those are 2 of the name programs in our league. What Cincinnati and Cincinnati and Houston and Wichita State are doing, and SMU's been on a high, and Central Florida's getting better. But the 2 names other than Cincinnati in this league are Memphis and UConn. And if those 2 guys raise the level of the conference, now we're talking not a 3-bid league, maybe a 4- and 5-bid league, which would be awesome.
And certainly the Temple team we saw this year looked like a tournament team, and Fran Dunphy does a great job. So as hard as it gets harder for you, certainly this league has the potential to go even way beyond what it was this year.
There's a guy who's won almost 600 games, and he's been to the NCAA tournament like 20 times. And he's got a team that if they played like they did against us all 3 times, they're a 9 seed or better in the NCAA tournament. But he couldn't get them to do that. And that, college basketball now, with all that's going on, is the Wild Wild West. It's crazy. You don't know what you're going to run into, man. You better make sure you're playing really, really well. I think the end of this tournament this year is going to be incredible. I hope it doesn't come down to all these blue bloods in the end. You've only got one blue blood in the region Kentucky's in. That you've got Loyola, what a great story. Porter Moser and his group. I've enjoyed watching them play. Nevada, they've won 2 games, and they've led for a total of 3 minutes and 41 seconds in the 2 games. And then you've got, who's the other team in that one?
Oh, gosh.
Nevada, Loyola, Kentucky, K-State. And without Dean Wade. I mean, they're doing a great job. Now, they got the advantage of beating a 16, the only time in the second round all you had to do was beat a 16 to get to the Sweet 16. But they beat a 16 seed in UMBC without their best player.
Well, I just want to say congratulations on another outstanding year. Enjoyed working with you as always, and we look forward to, I know it's going to be a challenge next year with all the people you have to replace, but it's always exciting with Shocker.
It's going to be exciting. It's been a real pleasure, Mike. I've enjoyed it as well.
All right, Coach. Thank you.
Thanks.
That's the Gregg Marshall Show. That's our basketball season. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks all of you who have been here just about every show throughout the year. Stay tuned for Todd Butler coming up next.
With Cox My Account, you can stay on top of things without having to call. Check statements and pay your bill instantly, so nothing gets by you. Keep an eye on the strength of your Wi-Fi, and fix issues right under your nose by resetting your modem or set-top box. Even check TV listings. Sign into My Account at Cox.com today, so you never miss a thing.
With Cox high-speed internet, you get access to super fast in-home Wi-Fi to power all your devices and do the things you love online. And now